All right, before we even get started, I gotta say thank you guys. We just hit 4K subscribers on the channel. Hopefully we can keep this momentum going. Again, thank you guys so much.
Are they?
And you know what song he's singing?
What song?
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
But today we're doing something where I'm not sure how many people are actually interested in this topic. I just find it, fascinating as an NBA fan. We're doing the most important role players this year. When I say important, that kind of means you have to be on a good team. You can only be so important if you're playing on the Blazers or the Wizards, right? So important role players. And in almost all of these, I feel like if these specific players have great years, it really makes them title contenders. Now, most of these teams are already title contenders, but you guys understand what I'm saying. If these guys ball out in their role, it takes this team to a different level. And the first guy I'm gonna mention here is going to be a shocker to most people, talking about a former All-Star. Again, shocker, I'm going with Kyle Lowry. Now, hear me out. I believe Kyle Lowry remaining at the level he was at last year, which I feel like he was had a very underrated year last year, provides this team with so much flexibility on either end of the court. I remember watching Kyle Lowry doing a decent job guarding Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown in the conference finals 2 years ago. Now, that was 2 years ago. Maybe he's declined even more. But if you're telling me I have a guy that's gonna shoot 39% from three, be able to set up my offense, and be able to guard wings, that sounds like one of the better role players in the NBA. And I'm mainly talking about his defense. I don't think he's gonna fall off as a shooter, but if he remains a good defender and you could put in lineups with Tyrese Maxey, Kyle Lowry, and Paul George, that trio of shooting is ridiculous. And again, Kyle Lowry remaining able to play bigger than he is allows these lineups to be even more flexible. It allows you to get someone like a Kelly Oubre in the game who's not providing that spacing. So a lineup of Tyrese Maxey, Kyle Lowry, Paul George, Kelly Oubre, Joel Embiid. Like, if he can't guard bigger players anymore, that might be a problem. But if Kyle Lowry, Kelly Oubre, and Paul George are able to switch, protecting Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid on the perimeter, that's amazing. Again, I know this is a kind of random one. We're talking about an established player in the All-Star. Some of you guys might think he's washed. Obviously, he's not prime Kyle Lowry anymore. But if he can remain a good 3-and-D player, Kyle Lowry was a big reason that he were able to put in some of the lineups they were able to when they made it to the finals, when they could put in Duncan Robinson and Kevin Love at the same time. Because you know what? Duncan Robinson not guarding Jason Tatum. Kyle Lowry was. So I know that's a bit of a random one. I'm not really a Kyle Lowry fan, but when I look at this team and the three-point shooting and the defense they're gonna need, he's the main guy that can provide both of those things. Next up, we're gonna go with Aaron Nesmith, right? And I just made a video titled "These NBA Teams Are Confusing," and I brought up the Indiana Pacers only because I feel like they are positioned in a great spot to make a move. And that move would likely bring in somebody to take that Aaron Nesmith spot. I brought up the name Jeremy Grant. Because when you look at this Pacers lineup, you look at Tyrese Halliburton, Andrew Nembhard, Pascal Siakam, Miles Turner. That four sounds amazing. The other guy in that lineup is Aaron Nesmith, who had a very good year, averaging 12 points and shooting 42% from three. Amazing. Playoffs came around, his minutes went up, and his points went down, his efficiency went down. The Pacers are the best version of him away from being a championship contender in my eyes. And we just seen them play the Knicks, and the Knicks probably have the two best examples of this player in Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby. But was the shooting real? Is he really one of the best defenders in the NBA? I would say no, but can he get to that level? That's a possibility. Can he actually rebound the ball? Can he get a steal and a block a game? Can his scoring maybe go up? Like, he has so many areas where he's okay. He's okay, but he's not elite, at any specific thing. Maybe he becomes that on defense. I don't think he's there yet. But he's only 24 years old. And my point is, if we get to the end of the year and we're talking about Aaron Nesmith as one of the best 3-and-D wings, or we're talking about him in comparison to Jaden McDaniels, right? Even though they're, I feel like, similar, Jaden McDaniels is elite on defense though. Even though, Luka did what he did, he's elite on defense. Even someone like Lou Dort is elite on defense. Now, the Pacers probably want Nesmith over Lou Dort just for the size and athleticism factor. Even someone like Kelly Oubre just causes more havoc on the court, gets more boards, right? Gets more steals. I think Kelly Oubre, while shooting 36% from three, is who Aaron Nesmith needs to be. And if he can be that impactful on the boards, getting steals, getting in transition, this team can look like a real championship contender. But if we get to the end of next year and he's still only getting 3 boards a game, he's still under a steal a game, and his three-point shooting goes back down, this Pacers team might be in a little bit of trouble. So Aaron Nesmith to me is one of the more important role players this upcoming year. And someone else I see in the exact same vein of Aaron Nesmith is GG Jackson. I believe there's an outside chance he ends up starting for this team. I don't know if that's wishful thinking. I don't know if that's, pie in the sky, but Ja Morant, Desmond Bane, Jaren Jackson Jr., Zach Edey, and Marcus Smart. I can see a world where they put Marcus Smart on the bench if GG Jackson is good enough. As far as wings go, this team has GG Jackson, Santi Aldama, and Yuta Watanabe. They don't really have much. And Jake LaRavia, right? My bad, Jake LaRavia. So if the shooting of GG Jackson wasn't a real thing, this team is in trouble. I really like the rest of the roster, but if they don't have a player they can put at the 3, then a lot of this doesn't work. And you guys might notice the theme of this video so far, players that provide their team a lot of flexibility, and GG Jackson would do that for this team. As well as Santi Aldama, I don't know why I'm putting more emphasis on GG Jackson, just I feel like the upside is more there, but maybe I'm wrong. But when I look at this team, and even if they go small, right, Marcus Smart is someone that you can go small. Jaren Jackson Jr. is someone that you can go small with, but both of those guys in particular aren't great rebounders. You would think Marcus Smart would be a great rebounder, but he hasn't been majority of his career or all of his career. So if you can slide in a 6'9" wing that could shoot 36-37% from 3 while getting you 6 boards a game, that is extremely valuable. Then you don't have to put in someone like Luke Kennard, and you don't have to go extra small. You don't lose too much on that front, right? You don't have to go extra big. You don't have to put in a Brandon Clark in certain lineups. Not saying those guys shouldn't play, but you guys get what I'm saying. GG Jackson provides that flexibility if he's as good as we've seen last year, specifically shooting the ball. Can that, carry over now that he's going to be playing with Ja Morant, with Desmond Bane, a lot more pressure in these games? How does that look? So again, GG Jackson, extremely important this upcoming year. Next up, we're going to go to Milwaukee, and we're going to talk about Gary Trent Jr. Now, when I look at this Milwaukee team, immediately 2 things stick out to me that they are lacking. One more guy that can create off the dribble, and perimeter defense. And I'm not sure how much Gary Trent does either one of those things, but if he can, he's in a perfect position to show it. And we know with shooters, especially streaky shooters, which I would consider Gary Trent, it can change year from year. Last year he shot 30% on pull-up threes and 34% on pull-up jumpers in general. Not great. And looking at the numbers, he's never been an exceptional pull-up jump shooter, but I feel like on this team, those opportunities are going to be there for him even more, coming off Giannis screens, coming off Brook Lopez screens. Because if not Gary Trent Jr., who else on this team besides Dame and Chris Middleton do you feel comfortable running a pick and roll, especially to score? I'm not expecting any playmaking from Gary Trent Jr., but can he be a more efficient scorer off the dribble? This might sound crazy, and it probably is crazy, but can he be a similar player to Malik Monk? And if you look at the pull-up shooting numbers, they're actually very similar. But before Malik Monk got to Sacramento, his career high in assists was 2.9. Last year, that was all the way up to 5.1 a game. I'm not expecting that from Gary Trent, but can he be more dynamic with the ball in his hands? Now, he's been in the league 7 years already, but he's still only 25 years old, so maybe there's another level he can get to. And as far as defense, I'm expecting Dame to be bad on defense. Chris Middleton at this age, coming off of double ankle surgery, feel like I have to keep saying that. I'm expecting him not to be great on defense, so the third guard has to be very good on defense. And to me, it's kind of up in the air. Is Gary Trent a good defender? Is he borderline elite defender? Is he not even a good defender at all? I feel like it varies year to year, so he's gonna have to put in his best effort on that side of the ball, and I expect him to. He's on a 1 year, is he on a minimum? Like, he's playing for a contract. Expecting a big year for Gary Trent, and the Bucks are going to need it. Now we're gonna go to the West, and we're gonna talk about 2 bigs in the West, starting with the Oklahoma City Thunder, a team that people are calling the favorite out West, and if you look at the roster, I see no reason not to believe that. But when I look at this team, as great as they are, I don't see a team without some glaring flaws. And they did address 2 of those flaws, in my opinion, with Isaiah Hardenstein, one being size, and to a lesser degree, some passing. OKC fans, maybe I'm not locked in enough, but I don't feel like they have a lot of guys you would classify as great passers. Maybe I'm wrong in that. But for everybody else, my question has kind of been, can that player get to this level? For Isaiah Hardenstein, we already know what level he's at. I don't have any doubts about him being able to maintain that level, but my question is more about how does he fit into this team, because a big part of this team was being able to go 5 out. And as much as the spacing was a problem with Josh Giddey, he still managed to take more threes per 36 than Shea and J-Dub. So even though they were the most accurate team from 3 last year, they're not the most prolific team, And now bringing in a 5 that is going to clog the lane a little bit might make the game a little bit tougher for Shea and J-Dub getting to the rim, and how does that work out? And also last year, the guy that led them in threes was Lou Dort, and shout out to Lou Dort, but I'm not putting my money on him having that year again shooting the ball. Caruso also had a career year shooting the ball. I'm going to assume Isaiah Joe's going to play more, Casey Wallace is going to play more, but again, having Isaiah Hardenstein in the lineup limits how many of those guys can actually play. So I'm actually not even sure what I'm trying to say with this one. I like Isaiah Hardenstein a lot, been a fan since the Clipper days, but I guess my question is he going to be good enough for them to go away from 5 out? And if they don't go 5 out, I'm wondering how does that affect J-Dub in particular without the wide open driving lanes to the rim? Not trying to take anything away from him, but we know it's different when you have a 5 that does not space the floor. And I think we all can agree if Isaiah Hardenstein is playing 20 minutes or more per game, then Shea and J-Dub are going to have to shoot more threes, and that was probably going to happen anyway. And it's easy to think that's going to happen, like that will be fine, but it's not easy to keep your efficiency on more volume. So it's more questions about how this team is actually going to work out and how big of a part of this team is Isaiah Hardenstein going to be, because I could see him, you know, closing games playing 25 minutes a night. I can also see games where maybe he only plays 15 minutes. Is he going to be that impactful that you have to have him on the court against Jokic, or you have to have him on the court against Rudy Gobert or AD, or would you rather have the spacing of Chet at the 5? It's going to be a question all year. And, you know, again, I like Isaiah Hardenstein, but we might look back at that contract with some questions. All right, I know I said we were going to talk about 2 centers, but we're actually going to switch it up, and we're going to talk about Andrew Wiggins, which, you know, former All-Star Andrew Wiggins. I don't think there's much to be said here, but the way I got to Andrew Wiggins is I was actually going to talk about Kevon Looney and how Looney actually didn't have such a bad year. The context of the team just changed. They didn't really have the spacing where, you know, in the championship year, they had Otto Porter, Nemanja Bjelica, Jordan Poole was a big factor as far as just having another on-ball creator, so Looney's lack of offense wasn't such a big deal. And then that got me thinking, yeah, this team is not set up for Looney to succeed, because all those things still apply. They don't have any spacing. It's Looney, it's Kyle Anderson, it's Draymond Green, it's Kuminga, all guys in the front court you wouldn't consider spacers, so I'm not sure how Looney's actually gonna fit in on this team. And with that being said, with all the lack of spacing, that brings me to Andrew Wiggins. Can he actually space the floor? And that is an extremely low bar for Wiggs. The bar is low for Wiggs right now. All the off-court stuff, I'm not really here to talk about that. Why is he missing games? You know, I don't know. But something that bothered me last year was people saying, oh, look, this is the real Wiggins, where you can question a lot about Wiggins. You can question his heart. You can question his, you know, commitment to the game. You can do all that if you want. But last year was the first year in Wiggins' career where he wasn't a bucket. Last year was the outlier. Wiggins could always score the ball, if nothing else. Now, him being a knockdown shooter is relatively new, right? That is a Warriors Wiggins thing, but Minnesota Wiggs was still getting buckets. But as a member of the Warriors, he's shooting 38% from 3. Last year, he shot 35%. I'm going to choose to believe in a 264 game sample size of Wiggs being a good shooter on the Warriors and believe he can get back up to 38%. And I always knew that was important for this team, for Wiggins to be a good shooter, but talking about Kevon Looney really reminded me how important it actually is, especially with no Klay Thompson on this team, because whatever you want to say about Klay as a defender, he's still a big guy on the court. Buddy Hield is not that. So if you don't have Wiggins shooting the ball, it becomes difficult to play Draymond and Kuminga together. It becomes difficult to find lineups where Kyle Anderson's shooting is not hurting you. But the 2 years before last year, Wiggins shot a combined 39% from 3 on nearly 6 attempts per game. If he can do that, again, it allows guys like Kyle Anderson and Kevon Looney to be high impact players. And you might say if Wiggins doesn't show up, Moses Moody will show up, and sure, I believe in that, but Moody hasn't shown to be a 39% three-point shooter like Wiggins has. Moody has been good on defense, but he hasn't shown to be an elite defender like Wiggins has. So if Wiggins can do these things again, this team can be very dangerous. If he's not able to, then they don't have that connecting piece besides Moses Moody, and maybe he's ready for it, but what if he's not? All right, last one, and I'm sure I missed out on a bunch of them. I'll name a couple at the end of it, but last one I'm gonna focus on is actually Jared Vanderbilt. Now, LeBron James fans, don't take this the wrong way, but the matchup that really stood out to me in that playoff series against the Denver Nuggets was LeBron James against Aaron Gordon. Now, it's extremely unfair to ask a 39-year-old LeBron James to be battling with Aaron Gordon. But the Lakers had no one else on the team that could do that job besides Anthony Davis, who was occupied, averaging 27 points, 15 boards, and 4 assists. LeBron James was no slouch in that series either, and LeBron James was guarding Jokic at times and proved to be the Lakers' best defender on Jokic, so no slight at LeBron James. I was actually extremely impressed by LeBron and AD in that series. Before that series, I thought, the time of them being your 2 best players on the championship team was done. I was thinking that. And maybe that still is the case, but back to Vanderbilt, because what was missing from the Lakers was exactly what he does. Now, maybe not in the way he does it. He's not the, physical strength guy. He's not really gonna battle with Aaron Gordon, but he is the freak athlete guy. He is the guy that does all the dirty work. He is the guy that will help AD on the boards. Now, last time he played against Denver, he was actually benched, but that was a different coach, and Rui Hachimura was on a heater, and it's not a Denver specific thing. But also, Jared Vanderbilt probably would have been the guy guarding Jamal Murray. If they play OKC, he's probably going to be guarding Shea. And more than anything, when I watch this team, they need someone that alleviates LeBron James and AD from having to do all the dirty work. They shouldn't be the stars and have to do all the dirty work, but they have to on this team. So can he stay healthy? And I've been someone that is a fan of AD going back to the 4 a little bit more, not full time, but some lineups with him at the 4. Now, Vanderbilt, again, is not the biggest player, not the strongest player, so he doesn't exactly do that. But as has been the theme of this video, he allows them a lot more flexibility. You can play him with LeBron and AD if you have enough spacing on the floor, and you do have that in D'Lo, Reeves, and Connect, and Max Christie. Any of those 2 players with LeBron, AD, and Vanderbilt is a viable lineup in my opinion. I'm not saying he should start, I'm not saying he should close, but the Lakers did not have that option last year of a player that helps LeBron and AD on defense. Because if he's not healthy, I feel like that is way too much pressure on AD and LeBron at the stage of both of their careers. So I'm not gonna lie, I did try to go with some ones that weren't the most obvious ones, right? Like GG Jackson, I don't think it's that obvious. Kyle Lowry, don't feel like it's that obvious, but there's more obvious ones. Jaden McDaniels, really the same case as GG Jackson and Aaron Nesmith, but he's more established, but he's been kind of stagnant in his progression. Can he take another step offensively? I feel like I've talked about that recently. Some would say Tyus Jones and or Monty Morris. To me, the more important role player for that team is actually Ryan Dunn. If he can provide, some real defensive prowess at that 4 position, this team desperately needs that. KD's really on an island. Nurkic is there, right? But they're asking KD to do so much as far as on the boards, protecting the rim. I don't really see Tyus Jones having the greatest impact on this team. Maybe it would be different if there was no Bradley Beal, but there is. Some would argue if those 3 guys are gonna be on the court together, then maybe the spacing of Grayson Allen is probably more important than Tyus Jones. Some would argue that if KD and Book are gonna have the ball anyway. I don't know. I'm not the biggest believer in that Tyus Jones move. So Ryan Dunn is more important to me as far as what he can actually provide that this team is missing. I was a big Ryan Dunn fan all the way through, still felt like he should have went higher in the draft. But let me know in the comments down below some other names, and I tried to make a distinction between most important role players and guys that might break out, right? So Trey Murphy, feel like that's more of a breakout guy than a role player. Kuminga, more of a breakout guy. Keegan Murray, more of a breakout guy. Jalen Suggs, maybe more of a breakout guy, right? So try to make that distinction when you name people in the comments, but do drop those in the comments down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please drop a like, please subscribe, and like I said, we just hit 4K, so if you guys keep subscribing, we can hopefully hit 5K before the start of the NBA season. I would greatly appreciate it. I'm out. Peace.